Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and drop a like on this video. With that out of the way, a couple of interesting games to talk about today. First things first, I did not watch all but the fourth quarter of Spurs versus Celtics, but I feel a need to talk about that fourth quarter and overtime because it was really fucking good. So if you were not aware, in this game, the Celtics were down by 32 points, I believe at halftime, but at least that deficit at one point, and they won, which is ridiculous. So the way they did this, based on what people were telling me on Twitter, was that essentially Buddy Hield or not Buddy Hield. Why did I say Buddy Hield? Jason Tatum went fucking ballistic. He finished the game with 60 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 20 for 37. 37 field goal attempts for 60 points is a little high, but at the end of the day, got the job done. Quite a few free throw attempts. He hit a step back three at the top of the key that was a really big one at the end of the fourth quarter, and he actually had an opportunity to win the game. Instead of it going into overtime, he did a half spin fadeaway that completely lost DeMar DeRozan. It was a beautiful move. He had the space. The shot looked like it was going in, and it felt like destiny that it was going to go in, but it did not. But yeah. Tatum in this game, absolutely fantastic. The amount of shots that he took to get to the 60 makes me think this might not be the best game of his career. The 50 bomb he had, at least from a pure numbers standpoint, probably a tad bit better. But regardless, him leading the Celtics in this comeback, maybe it puts it at the top. Either way, regardless if it is his best game of his career or not, an incredible fucking performance. Jason Tatum in this game was clearly struggling, but he hit a big three, I believe, at the end of the fourth quarter. It might have been in overtime, but I'm pretty sure it's the fourth quarter. On the Spurs side of things, what's his name? Lonnie Walker hit a big mid-range pull-up shot. DeMar was really good in this game, statistically speaking, although he wasn't efficient shooting-wise, though he got to the free throw line a lot. Holy shit, 19 attempts. See, I'm looking at this box score because I didn't watch most of the game, but yeah, this game, the overtime was close. The whole game when I tuned in was pretty close. It was just fun. I wish I could find ways to watch games after they've been done because I don't have NBA League Pass. I've heard there's a way to watch games that happen that were recorded elsewhere. I don't know, but this game, very, very good regardless. I would like to rewatch the whole thing, but is what it is. Next game I got to talk about is Wizards versus Cavs. I tuned out of the fourth quarter of this one to watch the Celtics Spurs game because this game was a absolute blowout. The Cavaliers got killed by the Wizards. Russell Westbrook, yet another triple-double. I got asked on Twitter a bunch to talk about Russell Westbrook, so I figured might as well watch a Wizards game. And while he was not as efficient from the field, which is kind of the Russell Westbrook experience, I mean, he was one field goal away from 50%, so, small attempt sample size, whatnot. 15 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists. This is a very across-the-board team effort from the Wizards. They had 7 players in double figures. I think that says all you need to know. Garrison Matthews came 1 point away from making it 8. So team effort. Cavs side of things, Isaac Okoro, I noticed that he was breaking a lot of threes. If he can become a good three-point shooter, he's going to be a very, very valuable starter. But that wasn't a thing. Another story of this game is that Kevin Love, in 22 minutes of action, 0 field goal attempts. Now, from watching this game, I feel that is a tad overblown because there really weren't that many opportunities to score that he was passing up. But at the same time, you could argue he wasn't really looking for his shot. And I actually, because there was a clip of him that went a little viral the other day of him inbounding it haphazardly and then just not seeming to give a shit about even trying to put any 1% of effort into looking like he cared. Just in that clip, it was kind of out of context, and I watched some clips from after where Kevin was playing just like he normally would with the adequate amount of effort. In this game, I noticed a few possessions where his body language was not the best, but in general, I wouldn't read into it as much as I'm sure a lot of other people are. But it's interesting. I know Swish Out made a video about the topic, but it's like, dude, you signed this contract. You knew what you were signing up for. But I also don't want to be mean to Kevin Love because I know he has mental health stuff, and I want to respect that. So I don't know about that situation, but that's what I got from this game. But on the Wizards side of things, from both sides really. It was pretty standard. Nothing stood out too significantly. Chetty Osman though, 14 points off of the bench. He hit two. He's actually wow. So he's 2 for 7 from 3, but both of the threes that I saw him hit were very impressive. So I thought he had a good shooting game. Apparently not. Anyways, the last game of the day was Lakers versus Kings. This game was good and also not that great because, it's the Lakers versus the Kings, and the Kings don't have De'Aaron Fox. And I was kind of hoping for a little bit more, being that this was LeBron's first time back in a while. From LeBron, his side of things, he was pretty passive, which, was a thing LeBron was doing before he was coming back from an injury, so I'm not all that shocked by that. Anthony Davis had probably the best game he's had since coming back, which is interesting that happens as soon as LeBron is back. More playmaking for him probably helps in that regard. But also Andre Drummond was frustrating in this one. A couple of dumb shots, but more so defensively it was suspect, and then he was getting in the way of the spacing. On the Kings side of things, though, Tyrese Halliburton was fantastic in this one. I think a couple of games ago I watched the Kings without De'Aaron Fox, and I was like, Tyrese, he could have scored a little bit more. This one, 23 points, 8 for 14 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, 10 assists. Buddy Hield could not make a fucking shot in this one to save his life, but he was playmaking, so that kind of made up for that a little bit. And Rashawn Holmes, once again, doing Rashawn Holmes things. He is one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he averages like 14 points per game. Another thing I want to point out is Damon Jones was actually really good off of the bench. He had a tip layup, and he also had a dunk that was very mean. And this was yet another team effort. There's 7 players in double figures for the Kings here. Marvin Bagley, 20 minutes off of the bench. That's interesting. I know he's been getting less opportunity. I'm really curious what actually happens for him in this upcoming free agency. I think the Spurs is a big rumor. But on the Lakers side of things, I'm going to title this video like, should the Lakers be worried, or something like that, just because I've talked about before and made a video about it with like, can the Lakers repeat as champions, that I'm concerned about the timeline for this team in terms of getting back in the swing of things, because there's 10 games left in the season. Wait a minute. I didn't talk about the end of this game. LeBron took a dumb shot at the end of the game. He just chucked up a 3. I had a tweet from 2 threes that he put up before that. He put up 3 threes in like the last 4 minutes of this game. He took a 3 that went in that was big as the Kings started to get momentum going their way, and LeBron hit a 3 that kind of bridged the gap a little bit. But then the next possession, he airballed a 3, and then I tweeted, hey, that's pretty much the LeBron experience with him shooting threes. He's going to hit a big one, and the next possession is going to be like, this guy doesn't look like he can shoot at all. He either looks like Ray Allen or he looks like Andre Roberson, as I said about Lou Dort the other day. And then he took a 3 at the end of this game. First, actually, before that shot, they had a possession drawn up where Anthony Davis was in the high post, and there was no action at all. And then he tried to make a move. Rashawn Holmes brought help defense and then passed it back to LeBron, and then I think there was a foul or a timeout or something like that, and it was like, that was just a bad offensive set. Like, there was no spacing really, there was no action, it was just AD post up high, like deep out of the paint, questionable play. And then I don't know what happened, because I play games on mute for the most part, and didn't get an idea of why the possession died, but then they got an inbound. LeBron chucked a 3 with a defender on his left. Not a good shot, but it almost seemed like the Lakers didn't really fucking care about winning this game, and LeBron was just like, look, I'm going to hit this shot, we're going to win the game, I'm going to miss the shot, the game's going to be over. I'm fine with either of those results. So that's kind of what happened. I'm a little concerned about the timeline of this team. As I mentioned, LeBron is just coming back from injury. AD is like 4 or 5 games into coming back from injury, and he has not looked good in those games back, which is perfectly understandable. This is not me criticizing these players for these circumstances. LeBron not being all that aggressive in his first game back makes perfect sense. Shot 12 shots, 5 of them were 3-pointers. It's not a lot for LeBron in 32 minutes of action, but I understand it. The problem is, though, there's 10 games left, And I actually made a point to watch out for if there were any moments where there was a little bit of conflict from what the Lakers were without LeBron and AD to what the Lakers are right now. And one of them that I saw, particularly one possession that I focused in on was Kyle Kuzma got the rebound. And I would think in most of these circumstances with LeBron right next to him, he immediately gives the ball to LeBron. But no, Kuzma takes it up the court. And now he's in a position where LeBron's right here for a handoff. Doesn't hand it off to him. Instead, he dribbles more, passes it to Talen Horton-Tucker. Horton comes around to the elbow. And then LeBron is open towards like the around where the logo is. And then I'm like, okay, this is where Horton passes it to LeBron. But then Horton passed it to Markieff Morris in the post. And then I think after that, Markieff threw a pass and it got intercepted. And then I was like, what was that? Like, get the ball to LeBron. Why is this a play where Kuzma is setting it up for Talen Horton-Tucker for setting up for Markieff Morris in the post? You have LeBron on the floor right now. So that was interesting. I think that won't be a big issue in the playoffs, but it's nice. It's not great to be having these issues this late in the season when you want to be figuring things out. And in fact, I'm kind of concerned that the Lakers might rest LeBron or AD for like the 5 or so games left on the season because that's a practice from teams in general. But like, you guys might go into the playoffs with a really broken chemistry right now, and I don't know that you can afford to do that. Like, if we're looking at their standings in the conference right now, their first round matchup would be the Denver Nuggets. And yeah, Murray is out, but with Michael breaking out and the fact that Michael was not good last year in the playoffs for them, like that might as well just be a replacement. I'm not expecting him to be as good as Murray was in the playoffs last year, but I still think he can be very good. And Jokic has taken a leap from what he was last year. So, you know, things go bad for the Lakers, it's not impossible that they lose in the first round because with LeBron and AD out, they have slipped in the seeding. So I'm a little concerned about the Lakers, and I think they should be concerned as well. I don't know that we should be viewing games like, I'm going to shoot this 3, we win, we don't. I don't know, I want the game to end. Because that's really what it felt like. Of course, that might not have actually been the mentality, but that's just me reading into it. That's all this is me just fucking rambling about basketball. That's all I ever do. But I would be concerned if I was the Lakers, and from my point of view, it looks like they weren't taking it as seriously as maybe they should, and the fact that they lose to the Kings without De'Aaron Fox is a little bit proving my point in that regard. Another thing in this game, I mentioned Andre Drummond. The thing is, while I do not care for Andre Drummond as a player, one thing in particular that I was realizing I was getting mad about him in particular, but really it doesn't make sense because it's not his fault. I just can't fucking stand Anthony Davis playing power forward with a center who cannot shoot the ball at all, and watching AD post up and then Andre Drummond, or in the past Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee, are under the basket. It's very frustrating to me. I understand like late this game, AD was at the center and then it had Kuzma at the 4, although I would personally probably go Markieff over Kuzma, but that's just me. Regardless, it was a stretch 4 out there, at least ideally a stretch 4. Kuzma, it depends on the day. At least a guy who's not standing under the basket. And then AD was at the 5, and that's what they were going to late game because they're just better when they do that. I understand it's going to come out in the playoffs, but every time I watch the Lakers and I have to see that shit, it's like, this is just clearly bad basketball because AD doesn't want to play the 5. And I understand they're trying to preserve his body for the playoffs. It makes sense, but it's still frustrating to watch. But yeah, the Lakers maybe take shit a little bit more seriously. And then in general, there is cause for concern that little time left to get your chemistry and get everything back right to what it was when you had your 2 superstars healthy, and that could potentially wreak havoc in the playoffs, especially with them slipping in the seeding. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Also, I do want to say, actually, real quick, NBA talk's over, but I am working on a new deep dive right now, and I'm actually in the editing process. This might be the best one in terms of the quality of the writing. I'm very proud of this one, so if you've been waiting for deep dives, look out for that one when it comes out. Drop a like on it, all that stuff. Very not happy with the upload rate of that, but I've been in a weird place mentally the past 2 months, so I haven't been able to put myself in the place to make this type of content. But hopefully I'm pulling myself out of that with this one, and I'm liking this one so far, so be ready for that. Anyways, that was it. Goodbye.